Chapter 21:14. When the gaze in Li Zhuoran's eyes, which Long Chen was familiar with, was once again covered by a touch of coldness, Li Zhuoran's expression returned to its previous state. However, the Hongmeng aura around Li Zhuoran seemed to be even more chaotic than before. It was extremely chaotic. At this moment, Li Zhuoran roared angrily, "Damn it, when this battle is over, I will definitely extract your spirit and sacrifice it to the stupa stone of the Tao God Pagoda, so that you will never be reincarnated." As soon as he finished speaking, the piercing sound of wind whistled over. Jian Shisan's surroundings were filled with dense sword qi as he rode the wind on his sword. Long Chen asked, "Have you made the arrangements?" Jian Shisan nodded and said, "I have already swallowed a lot of elixirs and am currently recuperating from my injuries." Long Chen's expression gradually turned grave as he said, "I have just awakened that strand of Zhu Ziyi's spirit. The current Li Zhuoran does not have as much control over this body as before. If you and I work together, we will definitely be able to kill him." "Kill him? Kill him?" Jian Shisan was shocked and said, "Master, since Zhu Ziyi's spirit is still inside, if we kill Li Zhuoran, doesn't that mean?" Long Chen hurriedly waved his hand and said, "Some things are very difficult to explain. With our abilities alone, it is simply impossible to extract Li Zhuoran's spirit from Zhu Ziyi's body. Unless we kill Li Zhuoran here, perhaps there will be one. There is some hope that Zhu Ziyi's divine phoenix body can achieve nirvana and rebirth." "Is that so?" After listening to Long Chen's explanation, Jian Shisan finally reacted. Due to the current situation, he could only comply with Long Chen's suggestion. Long Chen looked at Li Zhuoran, who was trying to suppress his own spirit, and knew that if he did not act now, the last strand of Zhu Ziyi's spirit would really dissipate from this world. Long Chen looked at Jian Shisan and said in a deep voice, "Do it." Hearing this, Jian Shisan immediately rushed out. The surrounding sword qi was piercingly cold and impassioned, immediately surrounding Li Zhuoran. Jian Shisan released sword qi after sword qi and cautiously approached Li Zhuoran's side, attempting to probe Li Zhuoran's current strength. From the sword qi could clearly sense that although the Hongmeng qi around Li Zhuoran's qi was somewhat chaotic, his overall strength was still not to be ignored. His sword qi. Li could clearly sense that his strength's overall strength was still not to be ignored, his overall strength, although the Hong Qi's qi was somewhat chaotic was his strength, his was the best opportunity. Until now, Long Chen was still not sure whether Zhu Ziyi's divine phoenix body could complete the act of nirvana rebirth. If not, when he killed Li Zhuoran, Long Chen would also kill Zhu Ziyi. Perhaps Zhu Ziyi did not have such a plan. Zhu Ziyi did not have such a plan. What he wanted to do was to break free from Li Zhuoran's control. He did not wish for his body to be taken over by another person. Long before Long Chen and the others came to Hongmeng, Zhu Ziyi's divine phoenix body had almost reached the peak of its original world. Li Zhuoran's original strength was infinitely close to that of the Hongmeng Dao ancestor. It could be said that the power of Li Zhuoran's spirit had reached a kind of peak after surviving the disaster that destroyed Li Zhuoran's physical body. Now, under the powerful combination of Li Zhuoran's spirit and Zhu Ziyi's divine phoenix body, how much strength could they display? All of this was still unknown to Long Chen. However, Long Chen felt that as long as Zhu Ziyi's spirit could still display some strength, it would be able to weaken Li Zhuoran's strength a little. Now, Long Chen completely understood that his heavenly dragon real body was just a joke to someone of Li Zhuoran's level. Previously, Li Zhuoran had only used his powerful Hongmeng aura to suppress Long Chen. Therefore, in the following battle, Long Chen would no longer think of using his heavenly dragon real body. Even if he used his heavenly dragon aura, it would probably be useless. At the moment, Long Chen was only left with the 9 heavens lightning eclipse and his spiritual consciousness technique. The Hongmeng aura around Long Chen increased layer by layer. Then, taking advantage of Li Zhuoran's emotional instability, he glanced at Huashanyu and the others behind Li Zhuoran from afar. If he and Li Zhuoran were to fight later, Huashanyu and the others might not be able to resist. If Huashanyu and Huashanyu fought, it might be difficult for him to bear. Of course, Hua Shanyu immediately sensed Long Chen's intentions. A cold light flashed in her eyes, but she did not do anything else. Then, Long Chen heard the voice of Patriarch Zishu behind him. Go all out and fight. If they interfere, my Zishu tribe will be the first to disagree. With the help of Patriarch Zishu, Long Chen immediately gained some confidence. Long Chen glanced coldly at Hua Shanyu again. He thought that Zhu Xin's current situation must have something to do with the Tao God Pagoda Master. After he finished off Li Zhuoran, the second person he would deal with would be Hua Shanyu. Zhu Xin, I hope you can survive. You have to know that as your master, I really have no other way. Long Chen sighed in his heart. Then, he summoned the Hongmeng aura from behind him into the mechanism. His eyes flashed with a few wisps of cold light. At this time, although Li Zhuoran had already taken control of the Divine Phoenix body, Zhu Xin's counterattack before his death was still a little too much for him. Jian Shan had been probing around him for a while, but Li Zhuoran did not even want to make a move. To be able to see such a reaction, Jian Shan had a deeper understanding of what Long Chen had said before. Now, Zhu Xin's body was bearing two spirits. Although Zhu Xin's spirit was relatively weak, in this body, if Li Zhuoran wanted to completely erase this wisp of spirit, he would naturally have to pay a hefty price. It was also because of this that Li Zhuoran tried to suppress and not destroy at this time. Break! The Hongmeng aura behind Long Chen connected to the sky. 9 thunder dragons immediately appeared and circled around the dragon halberd in his hand. At the same time, Jian Shan gathered the sword Qi, and an illusory longsword suddenly appeared in Jian Shan's hand. This illusory longsword was here. At this moment, it already had some sword intent. The source of the sword intent was naturally the wisp of sword Qi that he had captured in the Blue Ocean tribe. And just as Long Chen and Jian Shan were about to attack, Li Zhuoran's figure also swept past. Hongmeng's aura vibrated, and Li Zhuoran's figure actually disappeared in an instant. When he reappeared, his figure unexpectedly appeared behind Long Chen. Chapter 21:15. Li Zhuoran did not give Long Chen any time to react. It could even be said that no one present had expected that Li Zhuoran, who was previously on tenterhooks due to the agitation of Zhu Xin's spirit power, would release such a powerful attack in the blink of an eye. A powerful impact. Hongmeng's aura condensed in his palm, and a blade of Hongmeng's aura emerged, piercing straight towards Long Chen. Li Zhuoran, who had originally planned to kill in one blow, had overlooked one point. That was, Long Chen's spirit power had already captured this strange arc the moment Li Zhuoran's figure flashed past. Therefore, Long Chen also made the adjustment at the first moment. The moment Li Zhuoran's blade of aura stabbed out, the dragon halberd in Long Chen's hand actually hung upside down, and the lightning that filled the sky immediately rumbled in the sky. At the same time, Long Chen's figure suddenly retreated, and the dragon halberd in his hand borrowed the power of thunder and lightning. It slanted out. Immediately after, Sword 13, who had already reacted to the fact that something was wrong, also rode on the strong sword Qi and whizzed over. The void longsword was unleashed with an absolute suppression of strength, and an incomparably vast sword Qi burst out explosively, with a kind of granulation that you could not the speed of detection hung on Li Zhuoran's body. Immediately, the heaven-shaking collision occurred, and sparks flew in all directions at the point where the two forces collided. Boom! Seeing that his sneak attack had not only failed, but also caused him to once again fall into a small situation where he was besieged by two people, Li Zhuoran's brows tightly knitted together. He directly pushed away the Hongmeng's aura around him, and at the same time, the blade of aura in his hand rotated. In an instant, it dispersed into a strong Hongmeng's aura, and directly blasted towards Jian Shan, who was attacking him in the distance. The space trembled, and one after another, the Hongmeng's aura suddenly swept towards Jian Shan. Although it was not close, Jian Shan had already sensed the powerful impact of the aura. Although it seemed to be similar to the Hongmeng primordial realm, there were not many attacks of the primordial realm, but everyone knew that if they did not resist, this move was enough to shatter Jian Shan's body. In the distance, Jian Shan's figure retreated rapidly, and at the same time, the void longsword in his hand pierced out. At the same time, the sword's aura condensed into a suction force. In the face of the powerful impact from Li Zhuoran's hand, Jian Shisan's face was unchanged. Bit by bit, he wore it down, and at the moment of collision, he successfully blocked the impact of the aura. Seeing that Jian Shisan was safe and sound, Long Chen, who had retreated behind Li Zhuoran, once again activated the Hongmeng's aura. At the same time, Long Chen pressed his spirit power into the dragon halberd in his hand, waiting for Li Zhuoran to come back to his senses. The dragon halberd in Long Chen's hand drew a series of afterimages in the air. Then, it contained a powerful aura that could destroy the world, and heavily blasted towards Li Zhuoran. Boom! 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 In the face of the dragon chariot's attack, Li Zhuoran quickly reacted after experiencing a small shock. Then, Li Zhuoran's figure flashed rapidly, and he actually tilted the Hongmeng's aura towards the impact on his body. He dodged once. With such speed, even Long Chen felt that he could not match up to him. The surrounding Hongmeng Tianjing experts were all shocked when they saw the back-and-forth battle between the three people in this space. The fact that these Hongmeng Firmament Realm experts were able to survive until now meant that they were quite perceptive. They more or less had some understanding of the power of the previous three moves. In their opinion, they should be able to resolve these moves one by one. Because this level of battle could not be said to be not tragic enough. This Long Chen does indeed have some ability. Old Mother of Heavenly Yin frowned slightly, as if she had sensed the untimely atmosphere. Wu Kuang laughed and said, I think it's probably because the spirit in Li Zhuoran's body called Zhu Xin is disturbing Li Zhuoran. Pagoda Master, you said that your previous suppression was in vain. It's just Zhu Xin of the fifth layer of Hongmeng Tianjing. Even under the suppression of you and the great elder of the Tao God Pagoda, Xin still has some spirit power left? Hua Shanyu shook her head and said, the body of the divine phoenix cannot be underestimated. Let's not talk about other things. I, Wu Kuang, have always looked down on those who rely on special physiques to become powerful. As everyone knows, I, Wu Kuang, have the most ordinary physique in the Lin Meng polar region. Didn't I rely on my own strength to reach where I am now? Wu Kuang mocked. Hua Shanyu did not reply after he finished speaking. This was because Hua Shanyu's physique was also somewhat special. Back then, Hua Shanyu was able to become the Pagoda Master of the Tao God Pagoda precisely because of her physique. As for the Hall Master of the Martial Ancestor Temple, Wu Kuang, because of his age, naturally did not understand these things. Old Mother of Heavenly Yin hurriedly came out to smooth things over and said, Hall Master's luck is rarely seen in the Lin Meng polar region in the past 10,000 years. Naturally, you don't need to rely on the strength of your physique. Among all living things, there are only a few special physiques. Therefore, it is not surprising that you became a good seedling for cultivation because of your physique. Forget it, forget it. I can't be bothered to talk nonsense with you. Pagoda Master, where are we going to make our move? Don't tell me we are going to keep watching like this? Wu Kuang was a little anxious. Hua Shanyu's gaze was cold as she said, regardless of whether Li Zhuoran can win this time, the plan that was previously deployed must be carried out. This time, at most, we will sacrifice the people of the Tianfeng tribe here. With the help of the Fangsun tribe, this great formation will be enough to turn the entire Hongmeng polar region upside down. Hearing this, Wu Kuang actually trembled a little. He hurriedly said, Pagoda Master, I will ask you one last time. Can you help us leave this place after the formation is activated? I don't want to die with this group of trash from the Hongmeng polar region. Fall here. Old Mother of Heavenly Yin smiled and said, Hall Master, please don't be impatient. Pagoda Master's eyes are deep and far-sighted. Naturally, he has his own plans. Wu Kuang frowned and said, I will believe you for the time being. This won't do. I also want to see how powerful this great formation is. Quick! In the distant sky, Jian Shisan finally pushed out the illusory longsword and scathed. A wave of piercing sword chi rang out. Thousands of sword chi chillingly descended. After the illusory longsword, it once again condensed into an illusory longsword. No longsword. Two swords struck out together, causing the sky to fall and the earth to rend. At the same time, the dragon halberd in Long Chen's hand also turned the sky and the earth upside down. After accumulating power for a while, it rushed down with the support of a powerful spirit. Chapter 21:16. Roar. Suddenly, the entire sky seemed to be covered by Jian Shisan's piercingly cold sword qi. At the same time, after the Hongmeng flames behind Longchen swept out, the heavenly dragon's dragon might finally came crashing down, immediately condensing into a ball that resembled a real dragon's. The powerful dragon form of Hongmeng. Longchen and Jian Shisan were separated by a distance of several hundred feet. They did not communicate at all, but their movements were highly synchronized and coordinated. Kill! Under the pincer attack, Li Zhuoran, who was trapped in the middle, suddenly leaped back. At the same time, the violent Hongmeng around Li Zhuoran spread out layer by layer. Then, he suddenly clenched his fist in the direction of Jian Shisan. In the blink of an eye, the Hongmeng aura in the air seemed to have exploded. It was as if the aura of Hongmeng had been detonated by this attack. A series of explosions occurred, forming a violent force that seemed to be the gathering of wind and clouds. Then, Li Zhuoran disappeared again under the watchful eyes of the crowd. When Longchen released the power of his spirit to sense Li Zhuoran's location, he saw that the current Li Zhuoran was formed with his body as the foundation. He had formed a huge divine phoenix that covered the sky. The real body of the divine phoenix. Whoosh! The real body of the divine phoenix covered the sky. After a cry, it pounced on Longchen and Jian Shisan below. In the blink of an eye, the attack and defense had switched. Perhaps Li Zhuoran had not thought of defending against Longchen and Jian Shisan's attacks. What he had prepared from the beginning was to release his real body of the divine phoenix. The magnificent brilliance of Hongmeng immediately scattered in the sky with the appearance of the divine phoenix. When Longchen pushed out his dragon halberd, the power of the divine phoenix collided heavily with the halberd. At the same time, Jian Shisan's piercingly cold sword qi. He came from the side with a murderous aura. Clang clang clang. The collision of the power of Hongmeng exploded in the air several times. Because of this collision, the real body of the divine phoenix had set off a gust of wind, blowing several feathers off the divine phoenix. However, compared to Longchen and Jian Shisan, the situation of the divine phoenix was obviously much better. Jian Shisan's piercingly cold sword qi was blocked by the divine phoenix. What was even more surprising was that the feathers of the divine phoenix not only blocked all the attacks, they even to the next level, to the divine phoenix's feathers to the next levels pushed them. In this way, Jian Shisan was to Jian Shisan was to. On Longchen's side, it was even worse. Under the suppression of the divine phoenix, the 9 lightning dragons were almost instantly extinguished. Then, relying on the power of Hongmeng behind Longchen, they barely managed to resist the powerful impact of the divine phoenix. Moreover, with Jian Shisan's help, Longchen was not killed by the divine phoenix in one blow. When Hua Shisan saw this scene from afar, her nervous expression gradually disappeared and was replaced by a smile. Old Mother of Heavenly Yi nodded at the huge divine phoenix and said, "I didn't expect Li Zhuoran to be able to cultivate the real body of the divine phoenix from the body of the divine phoenix after taking over Zhu Xin's body. It seems that our previous misgivings have indeed been dispelled." Wu Kuang was silent at the side. He did not know anything about the body of the divine phoenix. Hua Shisan said slowly, "After all, he is a senior who has lived for thousands of years. If he can't even handle these 2 juniors, he can't be Li Zhuoran anymore." On the other side, the people from Hongmeng's polar region became nervous when they saw this scene. Hua Lei and Hua Yan hurriedly came to the side of the Luohua clan leader and begged for their help. The Luohua clan leader shook her head and said, "The battle between Longchen and Li Zhuoran was a battle that was tacitly agreed upon by both sides. Since no one from Hongmeng's polar region intervened, we naturally can't do anything." When she heard this, Hua Lei and Hua Yan could not help but feel a little lonely. At this moment, Zishu Tianyang, who was beside the Luohua clan leader, smiled at Hualei and Huayan and said, "Don't worry about anything. Long Chen will definitely bring surprises to others. With his ability, even if he can't defeat Li Zhuoran, he will still be able to escape. Naturally, we can also escape from danger." The Luohua clan leader nodded and said, "Long Chen can persist for such a long time with only the first layer of Hongmeng Tianjing and Li Zhuoran. He really can't be judged by common sense." Hualei and Huayan, "Don't worry. Elder Fang of the Fangsun tribe has secretly set up a curse seal in the surrounding sky. If there really is an emergency, Elder Fang and I will definitely be able to control the situation at the first moment." Hualei and Huayan only felt completely at ease when they heard this. The godly phoenix's body emitted a brilliant brilliance. After knocking back Long Chen and Jianshi San with one blow, the godly phoenix was chasing after the victory. At this moment, a light shadow actually shot out from behind the godly phoenix. Immediately after, an extremely powerful force appeared in front of the godly phoenix. A powerful sword aura vortex exploded in the air. The two forces seemed to have some kind of connection. As the sword aura vortex grew bigger and bigger, the force of the light shadow behind the godly phoenix also became more and more terrifying. After a moment, just as the godly phoenix was about to turn around and deal with this light shadow, a powerful sword aura suddenly exploded in the air. The sword aura that faintly seeped out was enough to cause the sky to collapse. Then, it directly bombarded the godly phoenix. Above the brilliance released from the surroundings. Bang! This time, the attack was not only biting cold, but also extremely fast. It was so fast that the godly phoenix couldn't react in time. The powerful sword aura directly pierced through the brilliant brilliance released from the godly phoenix. The entire godly phoenix instantly dimmed. At the same time, Long Chen, who had already regrouped, clenched the dragon halberd in his hand tightly. With an unstoppable force, he once again pierced through the sky. The aura of Hongmeng slashed down fiercely with a force that could split Mount Hua. However, to everyone's surprise, just as Long Chen's killing blow was about to land on the Divine Phoenix's body, the Divine Phoenix that covered the sky suddenly disappeared at this moment. In other words, this was not a disappearance, but a movement that transcended space. Tearing space. When Long Chen's killing blow missed, the godly phoenix appeared behind Long Chen. In an instant, the vast aura of Hongmeng condensed and was about to descend. At this moment, Long Chen's palm rotated and the dragon halberd in his hand suddenly changed direction. The power of the heavenly dragon bloodline burst forth and directly pierced through the space that the godly phoenix had just torn apart. Bang! Jianshi San's figure appeared in the middle of the sword aura vortex. He suddenly clenched his hand towards the sword aura vortex, and an illusory longsword leaped out. Jianshi San instantly transformed into a ray of light and shot out. Chapter 21:17. At this moment, the space shattered, and a gorgeous splendor fell like a meteor. Unknowingly, the dragon halberd in Long Chen's hand had already been augmented by 9 lightning dragons. Moreover, Long Chen had even condensed into the true body of the sky dragon in one go. Immediately after, the true body of the sky dragon connected to the primordial flames behind it, and the thunder of the great Tao descended from the sky. Thunder and lightning descended, striking Long Chen's true heavenly dragon body one by one. Thunder from the 9 heavens, gathering of the winds and clouds. Lightning flashed in Long Chen's eyes. Just as the 9 lightning dragons on the dragon halberd roared, Long Chen's body suddenly leaped high into the air. The sky suddenly darkened, and then a bolt of lightning shot out from Long Chen's eyes. 9 lightning bolts. The dragons suddenly roared. The 9 lightning dragons on the dragon halberd roared out, wrapped in an incomparably violet power of lightning. Taking advantage of the moment when the sky changed color, it stimulated all of Hongmeng's aura in this space. Now that it was already in front of its eyes, it no longer had the ability to tear space apart. The powerful godly phoenix pounced. At the same time, Jianshi San used his body as a sword. The vast and vigorous sword qi enhanced Jianshi San's entire body, and the space faintly hissed. Heaven and earth as a furnace, cast me as a sword," Jianshirsan said in a trembling voice. Then, Jianshirsan's body disappeared in the midst of the sword qi that filled the sky. In its place was a majestic longsword. Kill! All of this condensed into form in the blink of an eye, and in the time it took for a spark to fly off a piece of flint, Li Zhuoran probably didn't expect that Long Chen in Sword 13 would actually be able to think of such a progressive tactic. If he had known this, Li Zhuoran would not have used the move to tear space so early, even if he had taken Long Chen's attack head-on. When the thunderbolt fell, Long Chen controlled the heavenly dragon real body and struck the godly phoenix with a thunderous momentum. The long sword forged by Jianshirsan directly pierced through the godly phoenix's body. A hole about 3 feet wide instantly appeared on the godly phoenix's body. The feathers on the godly phoenix's body that were emitting dense lightning immediately fell to the ground. Many of the feathers turned into ashes the moment they fell to the ground. At this moment, another change occurred. When the divine phoenix seemed to have reached the end of its life, the light that had fallen from the divine phoenix's body seemed to have returned to its original state and condensed. At the same time, the majestic Hong Meng in the sky supported the divine phoenix in an overwhelming manner. Phoenix rushed over. At this moment, Long Chen immediately sensed that something was amiss. He hurriedly exchanged glances with the longsword. Both of them retreated and rode the lightning away from the godly phoenix. When the light on the godly phoenix's body covered it once again, Long Chen, who was in the distance, could not help but suck in a breath of cold air. In an instant, the spectators on both sides could not help but exclaim, "How is this possible?" Long Chen muttered to himself. When Long Chen saw the godly phoenix that had condensed light once again and was radiating vitality, he was completely shocked. However, the real body of the divine phoenix this time was very different from before. The light that had condensed around the godly phoenix was no longer as radiant as before. What shocked everyone was that this light was actually black. Under this black brilliance, a feeling of space being torn apart slowly flowed out. What was even more surprising was that a different kind of life force was slowly being emitted under this tearing of space. This life force was like the beginning of the primal chaos. Open. The Hong Meng auras in the heavens and earth seemed to have sensed such an inseparable energy tearing apart and surged into it. In a short while, several Hong Meng cyclones condensed around the godly phoenix and rapidly absorbed these Hong Meng auras. They absorbed all of them. At this moment, Li Zhuoran's ferocious voice rang out, "The two of you are actually able to force me to this extent. Ha ha ha. I really did not expect that the polar region of Hong Meng, where fate was already on the verge of collapse, could still give birth to the two of you. You are both heaven-defying juniors. However, no matter how talented the two of you are, to be able to force me to use this means that you have not lived in vain." As soon as he finished speaking, the long sword that Jianshirsan had condensed into seemed to have been hit by some kind of energy and was actually forced to revert to its human form in an instant. "What's wrong?" Long Chen grabbed onto Jianshirsan, who was on the verge of collapsing, and asked with concern. Jianshirsan shook his head and said, "This energy seems to be clashing with my sword aura. How can this be?" Long Chen frowned and said, "What kind of energy is this? Wasn't your sword aura recently captured from the Blue Ocean tribe?" Jianshirsan circulated the Hong Meng around his body and nodded, saying, "It is the sword aura that I absorbed and refined from the Blue Ocean tribe. It is clashing with the Hong Meng aura that the godly phoenix is condensing now." Hearing this, Long Chen recalled the matter of Yun Qi Luo that he had heard from Hai Qingling in the Falling Flower tribe. He immediately raised his head, as if he had understood something. Over at the polar region of Lin Meng, Wu Kuang was already dumbfounded. "What kind of move is this? Why is it so powerful?" Wu Kuang asked. Old Mother of Heavenly Yin did not answer Wu Kuang's question. Instead, she said to the Pagoda Master, "Is this really okay?" The Pagoda Master, Hua Shanyu, was somewhat helpless and said, "Why is Li Zhuoran acting so rashly? Could it be that he has already forgotten how his physical body was shattered 1,000 years ago? If something goes wrong and Dao Ancestor Lin Meng wakes up, I am afraid these plans will all be for naught." Wu Kuang was confused. Old Mother of Heavenly Yin let out a long breath and said, "Forget it. Since Li Zhuoran has already started, let's take it one step at a time. Now that we are in the polar region of Hongmeng, even if Dao Ancestor Lin Meng wakes up, he probably won't be able to rush here in a short period of time." Hua Shanyu said in a deep voice, "I'm just afraid of what if. If that old bastard finds out that he has not recovered from his injuries for a long time because of our methods, he will probably be like the Hongmeng Dao Ancestor, forcefully extracting the fate of the polar region as the price. He will use his body to heal his injuries." When Old Mother of Heavenly Yin heard this, she could not help but tremble. She hurriedly said, "Dao Ancestor Lin Meng probably won't do that. If he wanted to do it, he would have done it 100,000 years ago. He wouldn't have to wait so long. Moreover, the few Dao ancestors in Hongmeng are all in seclusion. In Guanzhong, there are probably not many who want to start a war. Dao Ancestor Lin Meng won't go so far." Hua Shanyu nodded and said, "Let's talk about this matter another time. Since Li Zhuoran has already used this move, then there is probably no need to continue fighting this war. Perhaps none of those people in the polar region of Hongmeng will survive." Chapter 21:18. While Li Zhuoran was brewing the Hongmeng Qi power around him, Elder Fang, who was far away on the other side, seemed to have sensed that something was wrong. He quickly withdrew and rushed to the side of Patriarch Zishu, saying, "Patriarch Zishu, something bad has happened." "Elder Fang, why are you so flustered? Isn't it just Li Zhuoran who is going to use some magic?" Patriarch Zishu did not take it seriously and said in a deep voice. Elder Fang shook his head and said, "This is not Hongmeng magic. It is Li Zhuoran who is mobilizing the original Hongmeng power of this side of the sky." Hearing this, Patriarch Zishu and Patriarch Luo Hua beside him were confused. After looking at each other, Patriarch Zishu said, "Elder Fang, what do you mean by the original Hongmeng power?" Elder Fang was very anxious, but due to the situation, he had to explain the reason clearly, so he said, "Before the Hongmeng world was divided into polar regions, the Hongmeng power at that time was now called the original Hongmeng power. You can also regard the original Hongmeng power as a very pure Hongmeng power. However, there is a big difference between the original Hongmeng power and the original Hongmeng power, and that is, the original Hongmeng power is related to the stability of a side of the sky. When the Hongmeng Dao ancestors ascended, each Dao ancestor operated the original Hongmeng power, so that a large side of the sky could be removed from the original Hongmeng world. That is how the Hongmeng Dao ancestors were able to establish their own Hongmeng polar region. Originally, with the current situation, basically no one in Hongmeng could use the original Hongmeng power. After all, the Hongmeng power has been slowly decreasing with the passage of time. But now, for some unknown reason, Li Zhuoran is able to use the original Hongmeng power of this vast world. If we don't stop it, it won't be long before Li Zhuoran can extract the Tianfeng tribe's area from the entire Hongmeng polar region, and then control this area. At that time, even the Hongmeng Dao ancestors would find it difficult to reverse the situation." Elder Fang said anxiously. "This." After listening to Elder Fang's explanation, clan leader Zishu was even more uncertain. He hesitated for a while, wanting to say something, but in the end, he didn't say anything. At this time, Zishu Tianyang, who had been listening all this while, opened his mouth and said, "Dare I ask Elder Fang, is there a way to reverse the situation and interrupt Li Zhuoran's technique?" Elder Fang's expression was a little desolate as he said, "I'm afraid it's not that easy. Perhaps you can try." With Li Zhuoran as the center, the space within a radius of 10 feet from now has already begun to break away from the Hongmeng polar region. In other words, within the radius of Li Zhuoran, there's no way to harm Li Zhuoran beyond 10 feet, so there's no way to stop Li Zhuoran. When Zishu Tianyang heard this, he quickly looked at Li Zhuoran in the distance. His expression softened as he said, "Now, only Long Chen and Jian Shan are still within a radius of 10 feet from Li Zhuoran. Perhaps, they might have a way to stop it." Elder Fang shook his head and said, "Although the two of them can fight Li Zhuoran to a standstill, now that Li Zhuoran is using the power of Hongmeng, with just the two of them, I'm afraid they don't have much of a chance of winning, clan leader Zishu said. Elder Fang, so you're saying that we should evacuate the Tianfeng tribe now? Elder Fang nodded and said, compared to being wiped out by Li Zhuoran's move, even if it hurts the morale of the army, we still have to retreat. Hearing this, clan leader Luo Hua's expression changed. One Li Zhuoran could force so many Hongmeng Tianjing experts to this extent? Zishu Tianyang frowned and said, we can't retreat. Now that the Tianfeng tribe is nowhere to be seen, we don't know if there's another ambush behind us. Now is the best chance to take down Lin Meng Tianjing in one go, we can't give it up. Yes. But, if we don't retreat, when Li Zhuoran finishes condensing the power of Hongmeng, none of us here will be able to escape. Elder Fang roared. Zishu Tianyang's expression was firm as he said, Elder Fang, do you think that we can retreat for a while, but can we retreat forever? Without waiting for Elder Fang to reply, Zishu Tianyang said, I believe in Long Chen. He must have sensed that something is wrong, he must have a way to solve it. Clan leader Zishu was still a little confused. In the end, he still couldn't figure out what was going on. Clan leader Luo Hua said, Elder Fang, although we don't know what the power of Hongmeng is, but since we have mobilized so many people to activate such a powerful force, if we flee at this time, we may not be able to condense it again in the future. It's too difficult to gather such a powerful force. That's right, this is the only chance for us in Hongmeng Tianjing. Clan leader Zishu said slowly, no matter what Li Zhuoran is planning now, we will deal with whatever comes our way. Our Zishu tribe will be the first to fight with him. Elder Fang saw that clan leader Zishu and clan leader Luo Hua had no intention to speak up for him. He sighed deeply and looked helplessly at the battlefield. On the battlefield, Long Chen finally realized that he and Jian Shan had been trapped in a small space by Li Zhuoran. Long Chen waved the dragon halberd in his hand, trying to break through this small space of Hongmeng's barrier. However, when Long Chen's force hit the Hongmeng barrier, Long Chen realized that this Hongmeng barrier was stronger than he had imagined. It was sturdy. It could even be said that the energy contained in this barrier was the purest out of all the Hongmeng forces that Long Chen had encountered in his life. Therefore, Long Chen changed his target and began to attack the godly phoenix that was gathering the power of heaven and earth. Boom! 9 thunder dragons roared, and the splendor of thunder and lightning that seemed to tear through space was emitted from the dragon halberd. Then, after being pushed by a powerful force, these thunder and lightning attacks that contained the power of Hongmeng directly attacked the godly phoenix. Then, it went away. Ka. What surprised Long Chen was that in the face of Long Chen's attack, not only did the godly phoenix not dodge, it did not even have the thought of defending. Just like that, it took Long Chen's attack head-on. Then, the light of the thunder and lightning faded, and the power of Hongmeng calmed down. Long Chen then saw that there were no marks on the surface of the godly phoenix, as if nothing had happened. The space that Long Chen was trapped in gradually increased in size, and the power of Hongmeng around the godly phoenix also became stronger. Gradually, Long Chen also realized that something was wrong. Chapter 21:19. Just as Long Chen was frowning, Jian Shan, who was beside him, finally calmed down a little and grabbed Long Chen. Master, I think I have a way. Jian Shan said in a low voice. Long Chen turned around and said, What do you mean? You have a way to break the Hongmeng barrier? Jian Shan shook his head and said, It's not to break the Hongmeng barrier, but to kill Li Zhuoran. Long Chen was a little surprised. For a moment, he did not understand what Jian Shan was talking about. What happened? Why do you say that? Long Chen was puzzled. Jian Shan let out a long breath and released some of the sword qi around him. He said, Master, do you remember that after we fought at the Blue Ocean tribe, I stayed there alone for a period of time? Long Chen seemed to have thought of something. He said, You mean that the sword qi you captured at the Blue Ocean tribe can be used to deal with Li Zhuoran now? Sword 13 nodded and said, You're right. Actually, I've just noticed this piece of information as well. It seems to be after Li Zhuoran executed that technique that I realized that it was actually the sword qi I captured in the Blue Ocean tribe. It has a natural sign of conflict with the technique Li Zhuoran is using now. Why is that? Logically speaking, the sword qi and the power of Hongmeng should not be the same thing. Why is that? Longchen was very puzzled. Jianshi-san said, I don't know why, but I have a deep feeling. Now the sword qi in my body is already restless. And the power of Hongmeng released by Li Zhuoran, let's call it Hongmeng for the time being. The power of Hongmeng's sword qi and the sword qi in my body have an extremely conflicting attribute. As long as I can exert this sword qi to the extreme, I will definitely be able to defeat Li Zhuoran now. Good. Longchen nodded vigorously and said, since you have this confidence, I still choose to believe in you this time. Shi-san, is there anything I can help you with? Jianshi-san nodded and said, previously, I used my own body as the foundation and merged all the sword qi into my body. I carved out the heaven and earth as a hut and cast myself as the sword qi. This way, I can exert the sword qi in my body to the extreme and its lethality. Great. However, because my physique can't be considered very strong, I can only withstand so much sword qi. Longchen suddenly understood and said, you mean, you want to use my body as the foundation, infuse the sword qi into my body, and then let me be the sword qi? Jianshi-san nodded slowly and said, Master, although this matter is a little dangerous, I promise that I will not let the sword qi hurt your foundation. I believe in you. Longchen said firmly. There was always this kind of trust between master and disciple. Jianshi-san probably expected Longchen to agree so directly, so he didn't say anything else. He immediately came behind Longchen and said, Master, get ready. I'm going to release the sword qi. Just do it. If we can kill Li Zhuoran in this way, I think our names will be thoroughly known in the polar regions of Hongmeng and Linmeng. Longchen roared angrily. Jianshi-san, who was behind Longchen, nodded and said, here it comes. Jianshi-san quickly formed a seal, and the sword qi around him suddenly surged. Soon, the sword qi gathered in Jianshi-san's hand. Then, as Jianshi-san brushed past Longchen's back, the sword qi slowly flowed. The sword qi slowly entered Longchen's body. Heaven and earth is the furnace. Jianshi-san shouted fiercely. Just as Jianshi-san's voice fell, in the space controlled by Li Zhuoran, several sword qi suddenly came out. Then, these sword qi were activated by Jianshi-san and poured into Longchen's body again. In just a few breaths, Longchen's face was flushed red, and the Hongmeng aura around Longchen had completely dissipated. Instead, it was replaced by the sword qi that filled the sky. At this moment, the divine phoenix, who had been gathering the power of Hongmeng in the middle, seemed to realize that something was wrong and hurriedly took action. However, since things had developed to this point, how could Longchen and Jianshi-san give Li Zhuoran time to react? After Jianshi-san poured the last sword qi he had into Longchen's body, Longchen shouted as if he was about to collapse, cast me as the sword. In an instant, the entire Tianfeng tribe changed, and a part of the space began to shatter. The wild flow of Hongmeng's aura and the sword qi that filled the sky blended together, hammering each other, and the killing power penetrated the entire sky. Whether it was the Hongmeng polar region or the Linmeng polar region, many Hongmeng Tianjing powerhouses could not help but retreat when they saw this scene, afraid that this collision would affect them. Rumble. At this moment, the space that Li Zhuoran had gathered and extracted was suddenly shattered, and Longchen and Jianshi-san were able to escape from it. At the same time, the divine phoenix suddenly leaped up. It was probably because it sensed the sword qi that was released from Longchen and Jianshi-san's bodies. The sword qi that was released from Hongmeng's body had formed a strong mutual repulsion. However, at this point, it was already too late. Whoosh! Longchen leaped up high and looked down at the divine phoenix. At this moment, Longchen seemed to have become the ruler of this world. Longchen smiled at the divine phoenix and said, you didn't expect this, did you? If you didn't release this power, you would have been able to escape. If you hadn't released the sword qi, the two of us would never have been able to do this to you. You can only blame yourself for being too arrogant. Not only Li Juran, but it could be said that everyone present did not expect this. Even Jianshi-san had recently predicted that the Hongmeng power released by Li Juran would be forcibly suppressed by the sword qi that Jianshi-san had captured in the Blue Sea tribe. Everything was traced back to the source. The sword qi that Jianshi-san had captured originated from the Hongmeng sword in Yunqi Luo's hands, and the source of the Hongmeng sword was a piece of ore that was not attacked by the Hongmeng power when the Hongmeng Dao ancestor first extracted the Hongmeng's original Hongmeng. It was made of stone. In other words, the Hongmeng power could almost suppress any force in this world, but when it encountered the Hongmeng sword, it still had to bow its head. As soon as Longchen finished speaking, his entire body suddenly disappeared into the sky. Then, an illusory longsword condensed at the place where Longchen had disappeared, and it contained an extremely magnificent sword essence. The illusory longsword shot out, and with an unparalleled devouring power, it directly shattered the Hongmeng power around it. Then, it went straight for the divine phoenix, who was already in a state of panic. Chapter 21-20. Dong! 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 The waves of sword qi pierced through the entire space, and the shock waves bombarded the ground below. Immediately, the ground collapsed, and Hongmeng was shattered. A pillar of Hongmeng qi that was nearly 1,000 feet tall emerged from the point of contact between the illusory sword and the godly phoenix. Without any hindrance, it rose with a loud bang and shot straight into the clouds. In an instant, layers of mountains and rivers formations appeared one after another around the Tianfeng tribe. It collapsed, and all living things seemed extremely small under the gaze of the endless Hongmeng. Then, at the same time that the illusory longsword released such a huge amount of power, an extremely bright brilliance also swept out from the divine phoenix's body. For a moment, the spectators outside the space were all dazzled by this brilliance. Perhaps Li Juran still did not understand why his great momentum and magnificent power of Hongmeng would be so easily broken by Longchen and Jianshi-san in the end. Similarly, Jianshi-san and Longchen did not expect that when the illusory sword completely supported Jianshi-san's sword qi, it would produce such a strong oppressive force on Li Juran. The origin of Hongmeng first existed in the primitive world of Hongmeng. When the Hongmeng Dao ancestor tried to break the world of Hongmeng, it was because of the barrier between the origin of Hongmeng and the Hongmeng that caused the polar region of Hongmeng to be independent of the world of Hongmeng. At the junction of the two was the Hongmeng sword. In other words, the Hongmeng sword would not be oppressed by the origin of Hongmeng. This was even more so for the Hongmeng sword qi. Originally, if Li Juran only used the strength of his realm to fight Hongmeng, even if Longchen and Jianshi-san joined the battle, he still would not be able to deal with them. However, fate made fools of people. Li Juran's appetite was really too big. He felt that it was a complete waste of time to fight them one by one. He wanted to destroy the entire Hongmeng polar region in one fell swoop. In the end, he was too smart for his own good. The aura of Hongmeng around the godly phoenix continued to leak out. The illusory sword that was constantly oppressing it fearlessly was still as unstoppable as ever. When the brilliance released by the godly phoenix weakened slightly, the spectators naturally saw the direction of the battle. In an instant, most of the Hongmeng Tianjing experts on the Hongmeng polar region cheered when they saw a long sword firmly suppressing the godly phoenix. On the other hand, the Dao God Pagoda Master and the others had bitter expressions on their faces. Perhaps the Dao God Pagoda Master also did not understand how the situation could change so drastically in such a short period of time. Break! Suddenly, a loud roar reverberated in the space. The illusory sword once again emitted an even more ferocious aura. This time, the illusory sword finally pierced through the godly phoenix's final defense. It tore through space and directly pierced through the godly phoenix. It pierced through the body of the godly phoenix. Seeing that the illusory sword was about to pierce through its body, the godly phoenix seemed to have used its last bit of strength. Its entire body completed a spin and immediately allowed the brilliance around its body to hit it. Li Juran might have thought that by doing this, he could still save his own life. After all, the illusory sword was already firmly embedded in his body. No matter what, he could not get rid of it. Frost rises from the sword, the wind and clouds move the 9 heavens. Boom! Just as the godly phoenix turned its body around, an extremely thick and piercingly cold sword chi permeated the space. In an instant, an almost violent and majestic aura was released from the godly phoenix's body. At the same time, an approaching force appeared. An indescribable spiritual energy suddenly appeared and charged directly at the godly phoenix. This collision immediately caused the spectating crowd in the 2 polar regions to retreat. However, everyone continued to watch the collision in Hongmeng. They did not expect the space to collapse bit by bit. The vast body of the godly phoenix also gradually disappeared. Quick! Just as the Hongmeng firmament realm experts from the 2 polar grounds were concentrating, a wisp of spirit power shot out from the illusory longsword. The wisp of spirit power seemed to have sensed something and jumped out from the illusory longsword. In that instant, it rushed in a certain direction. Very quickly, this spiritual energy found its target. It was another spiritual energy. The 2 completely different spiritual energies immediately collided violently. At the same time, the illusory sword truly pierced through the godly phoenix's body. Then, almost without giving the godly phoenix any time to react, the sword stabbed out again. Amidst the biting wind and clouds, the godly phoenix finally dissipated most of its life force and was directly dragged into the sky by the illusory sword. Then, the illusory sword suppressed the godly phoenix with a mighty force and swept it from the sky. The sword pierced through it and firmly locked it in the sky. After which, the illusionary longsword slowly disappeared. 2 forces were finally emitted from the longsword. The 2 spirits floating in the air had also decided the victor. Long Chen's figure condensed in the air. In front of him was an extremely weak spiritual energy. Clearly, after the previous battle, Li Zhuoran no longer had the power to fight back. However, Long Chen would not let Li Zhuoran off just because of this. Long Chen released his spiritual energy and firmly locked Li Zhuoran's spiritual energy. Then, he slapped it towards the sword chi that was still spinning in the air. Kill! The sword chi directly tore Li Zhuoran's spiritual energy apart. At the same time, the huge godly phoenix body on the ground also disappeared bit by bit. When the Tao Divine Tower Master saw this scene, he could not help but feel dizzy. There was no mistaking it. Li Zhuoran's spiritual energy was completely shattered this time. In other words, from this moment onwards, the most famous genius in the history of the Lin-Meng Tianjing polar region was no more. How is this possible? How is this possible? The Tao Divine Tower Master, Huayu, said in astonishment. On the other side, after Long Chen destroyed Li Zhuoran, he hurriedly rushed to the place where the godly phoenix had disappeared. He released his spiritual energy in an attempt to capture something. His efforts paid off. Long Chen really did capture a strand of Zhu Ziyi's spiritual energy. Zhu Ziyin, how are you? Long Chen was burning with anxiety. Zhu Ziyi's spirit power smiled at Long Chen and said, "Master, thank you. I can finally rest." After he spoke, the wisp of spirit power in Long Chen's hand slowly dissipated into the horizon with a gentle breeze that was neither too big nor too small. Chapter 21-21. When Jianshi San recovered and floated beside Long Chen, only then did Long Chen realize that Zhu Ziyin would not be reborn as he had imagined. "Master." Jianshi San wanted to say something, but stopped himself. Long Chen stared blankly at the spot where the divine phoenix body had disappeared. He thought of the last wisp of Zhu Ziyi's spirit that had dissipated in the wind in his hands, and his entire being became desolate. In the end, he still didn't succeed. Long Chen smiled bitterly. "As a master, I'm really not qualified enough," Jianshi San hurriedly said. "Master, don't think like that. This result is already very good. I think Zhu Ziyin would also feel that this is the best release." Long Chen let out a long breath, then raised his head to look at the Tao God Pagoda Master in midair. he said sternly, Zhu Xian's ending today is inextricably linked to the Dao God Pagoda Master, the Dao God Pagoda Great Elder, and Li Zhuoran. Among them, there is still the Dao God Pagoda Master alive. This is unfair to Zhu Xian. Jianshi San hurriedly nodded, then shook his head and said, Master, I won't be able to continue fighting after this. Hearing this, Longchen started to care about Jianshi San. Although the cooperation between Jianshi San and himself had been spontaneous, the results were obvious. The two of them had achieved great success, and that kind of appearance would naturally make them use their bodies. Jianshi San, who had used his body as a medium to release the sword qi, had put in a lot of effort. How is it? Longchen frowned slightly. Jianshi San smiled faintly and said, the sword qi in my body is now too chaotic. If I use qi again, I'll probably be injured by my own sword qi. I really can't take it anymore. I have to go and recuperate. That's good too. Go and rest at the place where you've arranged Long Yuan. When this battle is over, I'll go and find you. Longchen said slowly. Jianshi San did not dawdle. After all, under such circumstances, if a seriously injured Jianshi San continued to stay here, he would naturally become a burden to Longchen. Master, there might still be a sliver of hope regarding Zhu Xian's matter. When we fight with the Pagoda Master of the Dao Divine Tower, we will definitely get to the bottom of this. After Jianshi San finished speaking, he walked away. Jianshi San no longer had the strength to leap and fly. Longchen nodded and said, I will. Recuperate well. If anything happens, do your best to inform me. After watching Sword 13 leave, Longchen eased the primordial qi around his body. He raised his head and looked at the crowd on both sides who were still in shock. After 100 years, he leaped up, and in a few breaths of time, Longchen floated in the air. In a few breaths, he arrived beside Patriarch Zishu. The current clan chief Zishu's gaze when looking at Longchen had already changed from admiration to worship. Jianshi San, are you okay? Patriarch Zishu could not suppress the excitement in his heart. However, due to his status, he could not express too much. He only asked why Jianshi San left alone. Longchen had not recovered from the matter of Zhu Xian. In response to Patriarch Zishu's question, he only nodded symbolically and said, it's okay. He just needs to rest for a while. It's not appropriate for him to continue staying here. He left. Then, Zishu Tianyang also came to Longchen's side and asked, is Li Zhuoran really dead? Longchen said faintly, his spirit annihilation. Finally, after receiving this definite answer, the Hongmeng polar region immediately burst into fierce cheers. Hua Lei and Hua Yin finally let go of the worry in their hearts. They trotted to Longchen's side. They did not say much, but as long as they saw that Longchen was safe and sound, the two sisters were very satisfied. After this, the aura of the Hongmeng polar region soared. Patriarch Zishu naturally took a step forward and shouted at the pagoda master of the Dao God Pagoda, Hua Shanyu, now that Li Zhuoran is dead, what else do you have to say? After being surprised by the result of the battle for a while, Hua Shanyu had no choice but to accept this fact. At this time, Hua Shanyu did not panic because of Patriarch Zishu's question. He still had that dignified appearance. He shouted, so what if Li Zhuoran is dead? Don't tell me that your Hongmeng polar region thinks that victory is in your hands? Alright, next, I'll let you see what it means to truly have victory in your hands. As soon as Hua Shanyu's voice fell, the Hongmeng firmament realm experts behind him roared in unison. Then, led by Hua Shanyu, the Hongmeng firmament realm experts from the Dao God Tower began to form seals with both hands. Before the people from the Hongmeng polar ground realized what had happened, an unparalleled curse seal power swept out from Hua Shanyu's body, and a gorgeous brilliance spread out in all directions. It was the curse seal power of the Hongmeng polar ground. It shot towards the earth hammer. Boom! In an instant, an incomparably violent Hongmeng chi burst out from the ground. Immediately after, a violent gust of wind howled, and within it was a dense chi that rose from who knows where. When the wind and sand slowed down a little, countless explosive shouts rang out. It came from the ground. The ground collapsed and shattered, sand and rocks flew everywhere, and sand filled the sky. In this underground, a vast and dense Hongmeng aura surged out. Under the tremor of this Hongmeng aura, it seemed that something extremely terrifying was brewing underground. The Hongmeng firmament realm experts from the Hongmeng polar ground had just been happy for a while. However, after a few breaths of time, such a huge commotion had beaten them back to their original state. From the top of Huashanyu, all the way to the bottom of the collapsed ground, Hongmeng's aura surged layer by layer, and an unimaginably powerful aura filled the sky. Even the Hongmeng Tianjing experts on the side of the Linmeng polar region did not look at them. They did not look sideways. Longchen was also slightly stunned as he looked at this scene that caught him off guard. Longchen focused his attention on the collapsed ground. He wanted to see clearly what was underneath. Is this another group of Hongmeng Tianjing experts? Zishu Tianyang looked at it for a long time and said in surprise. Any Hongmeng Tianjing expert present could sense such a vast Hongmeng aura coming from underground. However, no one dared to conclude what it was. At this moment, several gray-black figures suddenly appeared in Longchen's eyes. Such a shocking change immediately shocked Longchen. Chapter 21-22. Finally, when the Linmeng polar region experts dissipated the seals in their hands, the brilliance in a space faded away. After which, everyone could clearly see that there were countless gray figures underground. They were just like walking corpses. They surged out like a flood. What are these things? The Luohua tribe leader was shocked. The people from the Hongmeng polar region looked over and saw that the gray shadows that surged out from the ground were humanoid. But what was more terrifying was that these gray shadows no longer looked like humans. They had completely changed. Their faces were ferocious, and their surroundings were emitting a corrosive force. Zishu Tianyang was also stunned and could not react for a long time. Judging from the aura released by these gray shadows should have the strength of Hongmeng Tianjing. These gray shadows looked like puppets, but they also looked like humans. Could it be that these are the people of the Tianfeng tribe? Longchen said slowly. As soon as these words came out, the people from the Hongmeng polar region suddenly realized that they were now in the Tianfeng tribe, and the battle had been going on for a long time. Indeed, they had not seen anyone from the Tianfeng tribe for a long time. Could it be that these gray shadows that jumped out from the ground? Were these gray shadows the people of the Tianfeng tribe? Then, Longchen thought of the methods used by the Linmeng polar region when they first attacked the Hongmeng polar region. It was a kind of spirit pill that could greatly increase one's strength after swallowing it. It was a spirit pill that could make people from the Hongmeng Yuanjia improve their strength after swallowing it. It could even be said that they had broken through to the Hongmeng Tianjing. And these people in front of them looked very much like this. At this time, Elder Fan of the Fangsun tribe pointed at a person and exclaimed, "They are indeed the people of the Tianfeng tribe. That person is Feng Qingyan of the Tianfeng tribe." Everyone looked in the direction that Elder Fan pointed and naturally saw a person in front of those gray shadows. Although his face was ferocious and his whole body was emitting a foul smell, from his facial features, they could vaguely see that this person was Xiao Ling, who had been with Longchen. Feng Qingyang, who had a battle in the upper realm. As memories flooded his mind, Longchen also recognized Feng Qingyang. At that time, it was Feng Qingyang who received Lin Mengjidi's order after the small spirit world was closed. He led several Tianfeng tribe elders to besiege Longchen, forcing Longchen, Longmu, and Long Yuan to separate and enter the Star Pool world. Longchen never imagined that when he saw Feng Qingyang again, it would actually be like this. "No!" Elder Fan exclaimed, "The people of the Tianfeng tribe are all dead." As soon as this was said, it caused a huge uproar in the polar region of Hongmeng. Such a strange thing was truly unheard of. Originally, Longchen felt that the Tao God Pagoda was already extremely mysterious and hard to understand for it to be able to produce that kind of elixir. But now, the scene in front of him shocked Longchen even more. Elder Fan continued, from the looks of it, it should be that the elixir produced by the Tao God Pagoda is missing some elixirs, so after swallowing it, this kind of scene will appear. However, the people of the Tao God Pagoda, or rather, the Lin Meng Jidi's people, are unwilling to let their own people recognize it. The reason for this is to use the people of the Heavenly Wind tribe as an experiment. Longchen nodded, agreeing with Elder Fang's words. This explanation was the most reasonable. Thinking back to the two elders of the Tao God Pagoda that Longchen had met in the Long Meng Jidi's land, he could roughly figure out the reason for this matter. Elder Fang, what do you think the strength of these Tianfeng tribe people will be like? Longchen asked cautiously. Elder Fang thought for a moment and said, at least the first level of Hongmeng Tianjing. It can even be said that some of the experts who were originally Hongmeng Tianjing, after becoming like this, would be close to the Hongmeng Dao ancestor. Longchen nodded. He once again recalled the reaction of the great elder of the Tao God Pagoda after swallowing the elixir. For a moment, he felt a little troubled. This scene was not to be underestimated. Since these people of the Tianfeng tribe are already dead in a sense, then we don't need to have any scruples. Next, we will first deal with the Tianfeng tribe, then we can better deal with the people of the Lin Meng Jidi's land. Patriarch Zishu commanded. At this moment, on the ground, nearly 300 people of the Tianfeng tribe suddenly roared. Then, these people of the Tianfeng tribe, who were neither human nor ghost, jumped up one by one, like corpses, and rushed toward the people of the Hongmeng Jidi's land. The experts rushed to kill. Kill! Just as Patriarch Zishu was about to give the order, a Hongmeng Tianjing expert from the Fangsuan tribe, who was also from the Fangsuan tribe like Elder Fang, suddenly roared. He jumped up and directly rushed into the crowd of the Tianfeng tribe, as if there was no explanation. Then, he started to fight with those people. Patriarch Zishu had no time to stop him. He led the way, and the group of Hongmeng Tianjing experts behind him rushed out in a line and rushed down together. Longchen's heart tightened, and he realized that something was wrong. The person who took the lead to rush out was the one who had caused disagreements among the experts of the Tianfeng tribe when they were in Luohua City. At this time, he took the lead to attack. Could it be that there was something wrong with this? Soon, Longchen's suspicion was dispelled. The Hongmeng Tianjing expert from the Fangsuan tribe, who was the first to rush out, burst out a fierce Hongmeng aura. His hands formed a slightly complicated seal, and he attacked the people of the Tianfeng tribe at the front. Fall. Then, in a spurt of energy, this person used this mysterious seal to pierce through almost 10 Heavenly Wind tribesmen in a row. Even Longchen was incomparably shocked by such a fierce stance. Unexpectedly, Elder Fang was really surprised. He murmured, "How can Fang Wuhan use the taboo technique of our tribe?" Fang Wuhan? Longchen remembered this name in his heart. Longchen didn't know much about the taboo technique. Longchen only knew that now, Fang Wuhan's move had naturally boosted the morale of the people of the Hongmeng polar region. Some people saw that the body of the Tianfeng tribe had great strength, but its mind was not as strong as before. However, his intelligence was no longer the same as before. He had basically become a puppet without any consciousness. Naturally, his confidence had increased by quite a bit. Roar! Suddenly, the people of the Tianfeng tribe roared. Dozens of stronger gray shadows suddenly rushed out from the ground, and the aura they exuded was far stronger than those of the Tianfeng tribe. Obviously, these dozens of people were the elders of the Tianfeng tribe. Chapter 21-23. Although it seemed that these dozen or so Tianfeng tribe elders were already stunned, people in the Hongmeng polar region could still clearly sense that there was a very strong aura surging around the Tianfeng tribe elders. Meng Qi. Sure enough, after swallowing the spirit pills, even if they were missing some key spirit pills, causing them to become like ghosts, one thing that couldn't be ignored was that their strength and cultivation had increased. Just as these dozen or so elders rushed out, some of the Hongmeng Tianjing experts who had not reacted in time were besieged by these elders and died with their eyes wide open. In this way, due to the dozen or so Tianfeng tribe elders behind them, whose strength was close to that of the Hongmeng Dao ancestor, Fang Wuhan, and the others who had rushed out previously could not advance as courageously as before. Moreover, these dozen or so elders had those fearless gray shadows as the vanguard, so they could fight in the crowd without any scruples. Soon, a great battle unfolded. The Tianfeng tribe, who had already swallowed the elixir and become neither human nor ghost, fought with the Hongmeng polar region people. The two vast Hongmeng auras collided, and the Hongmeng aura surged, and a vast momentum unfolded. It seems that we should also make a move. Patriarch Zishu's expression was solemn. He looked at the Hongmeng polar region team, which had already shown a trace of decline, and frowned. Although the number of people on the Hongmeng polar region side was far greater than this group of Tianfeng tribe people, however, what could not be ignored was that on the other side of this battle, there was still a group of Hongmeng Tianjing experts eyeing covetously. More importantly, the Dao God Pagoda Master and the other two people had yet to make a move. Elder Fang nodded and said, "Indeed, we should do this. However, there are some things that we should say in advance, so that we won't be caught off guard when the battle starts." Patriarch Luohua asked, "Elder Fang, what is the matter?" Elder Fang said, "You guys, right now, our side is already fighting with the people of the Tianfeng tribe, but those people from the Linmeng polar region did not take advantage of this opportunity to fight with us. What is even more puzzling is that the Pagoda Master of the Dao God Pagoda, the martial ancestor Sacred Hall's Hall Master, the old mother of Heavenly Yin from the Heavenly Yin Demon Palace did not make a move. Instead, she is still watching." "Oh?" After hearing Elder Fang's words, clan leader Zi Shu also realized that something was amiss. He hurriedly looked at Hua Shiyu. At this moment, Hua Shanyu was expressionlessly watching the battle between the people of Hongmeng polar region and the Tianfeng tribe. Behind him, Wu Kuang and Old Mother of Heavenly Yin had grave expressions. It is indeed a little strange. "Elder Fang, do you have any impression of the seal used by the people of the Dao God Pagoda?" Clan leader Zi Shu asked. Elder Fang shook his head and said, "I have never seen it before. However, I can feel that there is an extremely terrifying corrosive power in the seal. I just don't know how this corrosive power is related to the spirit pill. Also, although these people of the Tianfeng tribe have the battle strength of Hongmeng Tianjing, why were most of them killed by my mother so easily? And some of them are indeed very strong, even stronger than Hongmeng Tianjing. Can't even get close to them? Elder Fang's words are too strange. No matter what, we have to be careful." Zishu Tianyang said slowly. Clan leader Zishu frowned and said, "Does the old ancestor have a plan to deal with it?" Zishu Tianyang said, "Since those people of the Linmeng polar region have chosen to wait and see, there must be some unspeakable secrets. Then, we will not let them wait and see. So, why don't we leave the battlefield over there? I want to know what is the purpose of the Linmeng polar region making these things that are neither human nor ghost." Longchen nodded slowly, indicating that he agreed with this approach. Zishu Tianyang continued, "Moreover, not only do we have to drag those Hongmeng Tianjing experts into the water, even the Dao God Pagoda Master can't let the three of them continue to stay there and wait for an opportunity to move. Someone must go and challenge them. Only then will we be able to see the situation on the battlefield more clearly, and it will be more beneficial to our control." After Zishu Tianyang finished speaking, clan leader Zishu nodded and said, "This method can be done. I wonder, how should we distribute it among us?" Elder Fang volunteered and said, "I can go and deal with the Dao God Pagoda Master, but if it takes too long, I'm afraid something will happen to me." Zishu Tianyang nodded. Hualei and Huayan walked forward, and Hualei said, "Leave that woman to me and my sister." Although clan leader Luohua was reluctant, she still agreed because of the general situation. Then, Longchen continued, "Then, leave that Wu Kuang from the martial ancestor temple to me." Zishu Tianyang was stunned and said, "You just fought a big battle with Li Zhuoran, can you?" Longchen waved his hand and said, "You forgot who I am. At any time, don't think that I'm at the end of my road." Clan leader Zishu and clan leader Luohua's strength was not enough to fight against any of the Dao God Pagoda Master, Wu Kuang, or Old Mother of Heavenly Yin, so they did not take the initiative to speak. Although Long Chen's strength was only at the first layer of Hongmeng Tianjing, after the previous battle, no one present would treat Long Chen as an ordinary first layer of Hongmeng Tianjing. Then, Zishu Tianyang looked at clan leader Zishu and clan leader Luo Hua and said, "Then, I'll leave those elders of the Tianfeng tribe and how to lead the battle to the Lin Meng Polar region to the two of you." Clan leader Zishu nodded and said, "Please don't worry, old ancestor. Let's go. After dealing with these people from the Tianfeng tribe, we'll gather and attack the Lin Meng Polar region with all our strength. Before that, we'll focus on dealing with them." Zishu Tianyang finally instructed. The 6 of them nodded and flew up. "You two be careful. If you can't deal with them, lead the battle to me." Long Chen looked at Hua Lei and Hua Yan and whispered, "Master, you must be careful too. My sister and I will take care of ourselves." Hua Lei replied with a smile. After saying that, Hua Lei and Hua Yan flew towards Old Mother of Heavenly Yin. Then, Long Chen and Elder Fang also radiated Hongmeng light. "Long Chen, is it? I didn't greet you before. Looking at you now, you're a little slow. I hope you don't mind." Elder Fang said slowly. Long Chen smiled and said, "It's my fault for not greeting Elder Fang. Elder Fang, please don't take it to heart." Chapter 21-24. Hearing this, Elder Fang waved his hand and said, "Let's save these pleasantries for later. Right now, the most important thing is to deal with the remaining 3 giants." As Elder Fang spoke, he looked at Hua Lei and Hua Yan, who had already left ahead of them. Then, he shook his head and said, "No matter what, we can't lose to these 2 girls." Long Chen felt very gratified to be able to meet such an interesting senior like Elder Fang. Then, Long Chen released the Hongmeng energy around him. The Hongmeng energy that had just stabilized was ignited again at this moment. Then, it attacked Wu Kuang, the temple master of the martial ancestor temple. At the same time, several seals lit up around Elder Fang's body. For a moment, golden light flickered between heaven and earth, and it was filled with a strong suppressive aura. The seal that Elder Fang had activated did not seem to be outstanding from afar. However, upon closer inspection, one would be able to sense a tremor that could destabilize a Hongmeng Firmament Realm expert's state of mind. It turned out that the seals were released by Elder Fang using the power of his spirit. There was a very strong spirit aura in them, and it naturally had a suppressive effect on ordinary Hongmeng Tianjing experts. Moreover, one thing that everyone overlooked was that Elder Fang himself was also a Hongmeng Tianjing expert. Although Elder Fang had been forced to flee when the Lin Meng Polar region besieged the Fangsun tribe, it was undeniable that in the battle, Elder Fang had faced 4 people at the same time. In that battle, Elder Fang had faced 4 people whose realms were no lower than his. Moreover, there were many Hongmeng Firmament Realm experts in the Lin Meng Polar region who had been nurtured by elixirs. That was why the Fangsun tribe had been defeated. The current Elder Fang had clearly recovered from his injuries. His next attack was filled with a piercingly cold aura. Hua Lei and Hua Yan faced off against Hua Yu and the other 2, and their auras did not fall. Elder Fang arrived late and immediately said to Hua Shanyu, "Do you dare to fight?" The pagoda master of the Tao God Pagoda, Hua Shayu, first glanced at the battle situation below. When he saw that the Tianfeng tribe had so many Hongmeng Tianjing puppets, but they had already firmly suppressed the Hongmeng Polar region in terms of aura, he let go of his worries and immediately replied. "Last time, you were lucky enough to escape. I didn't expect you to be so unafraid of death. Since you're so eager to die, I don't mind playing with you." After saying that, Hua Shanyu turned around and looked at Wu Kuang and Old Mother of Heavenly Yin. She said in a low voice, "Hurry up and get rid of these people before something unexpected happens." Just like that, Elder Fang and Hua Shanyu soared into the sky and headed for a higher place. Then, in the air, there were only Old Mother of Heavenly Yin, Wu Kuang, Long Chen, and the 2 sisters, Hua Lei and Hua Yan. Wu Kuang laughed and looked at Old Mother of Heavenly Yin. He said, "I'll leave those 2 girls to you. I want to see how this guy called Longchen will destroy Li Zhuoran's soul. Old Mother of Heavenly Yin did not refute. She immediately leaped out and rushed towards Hualei and Huayan. Next, it was the fierce battle between Longchen and Wu Kuang. Wu Kuang's expression was full of smiles as he said, Longchen, right? The great elder of the Tao God Pagoda and Li Zhuoran, these two people are the most famous geniuses in our Lin Meng polar region in the past 1,000 years. They actually fell in your hands one after another. Your strength is really not simple. Longchen had no time to think about the battle situation in other places. He smiled at Wu Kuang and said, after hearing what you said, I also feel that my cultivation level is indeed a little low. It seems that I won't be able to raise my cultivation level when fighting with you big shots. It's really embarrassing to have a higher realm. Wu Kuang coldly snorted and said, why? Don't tell me you're close to breaking through? That's exactly what I'm thinking. Longchen calmly replied. Hearing this, Wu Kuang shook his head and said, if it wasn't for your previous actions that convinced me, I would really treat you as a madman now. Longchen twitched his mouth and said, but isn't it because of a madman like me that 2 of your Lin Meng polar region's generals have been killed? Moreover, the 3rd will be coming soon. You're courting death. Before Longchen finished speaking, Wu Kuang activated the Hongmeng aura around him. Without any preparation, it surged out. You can't keep your composure? Longchen frowned and said in a low voice, how did you become the martial ancestor temple's temple master? Then, the Hongmeng aura around Longchen's body that had been accumulating for a long time was finally released completely. A domineering aura, like a ferocious tiger descending from the mountain, immediately pressed down on Longchen. Moreover, what was even more incomprehensible was that when the aura rushed over, Longchen did not choose to clash with Wu Kuang. Instead, he made a complete defensive stance. He went into a defensive stance. Waves of Hongmeng aura condensed around Longchen's body. Layer by layer, it tightly surrounded Longchen. Seeing this, Wu Kuang could not help but be furious. You actually dare to break through at the last minute? Longchen's Hongmeng Tianjing Stage 1 had been in the Hongmeng polar region's Longmeng paradise for almost a month. It had to be said that during this period of time, the battles that Longchen had experienced, big and small, had already made Longchen a Hongmeng Stage 1. Longchen's Stage 1 had been polished to a very stable state. Naturally, his spirit power had reached the critical point of a breakthrough. If he did not fight one battle after another, Longchen would not have enough time to react. Longchen would have already found a place to break through. Why would he wait until now? The reason why Longchen chose to break through at the last minute during the battle with Wu Kuang was because he had no other choice. After the battle with Li Zhuoran, Longchen's strength had been greatly depleted. In addition, Longchen's signature move had already been seen by Wu Kuang. Therefore, in the next battle, if Longchen continued to fight as usual, if he continued to fight like this, it was very likely that he would be greatly suppressed. Rather than that, he might as well fight with all his might and catch Wu Kuang off guard. Even if this method was a little risky, Longchen was confident that he could adjust the timing of his breakthrough. As long as Longchen succeeded in breaking through at this juncture, it meant that Longchen would be able to completely ignore the battle with Li Zhuoran. After that, the Longchen who fought with Wu Kuang would be a lively Longchen again. At this time, Wu Kuang was extremely furious. It was as if this was the first time he had been looked down upon like this. No matter what, Wu Kuang was a genuine Hongmeng Tianjing Stage 9 expert. You overestimate yourself. Breaking through at the last minute? Very well, let this palace master break through this layer of defense of yours and then crush your true body. Chapter 21-25. Sensing the powerful Hongmeng aura emanating from Longchen's body, Wu Kuang's eyes flashed with a sharp killing intent. As everyone knew, when a cultivator was breaking through, they would want to focus most of their attention, or even all of their attention, on their meridians. They would not be able to take care of the outside world at all. In other words, when a cultivator was breaking through, they would be at their weakest. Breaking through at the last minute, when facing an opponent who was about to kill him, was extremely risky. Longchen had already finished preparing for his breakthrough. He only needed to wait for the barrier formed by the Hongmeng aura to block Wuquang's attack. Then, he would be able to seize the opportunity to complete his breakthrough. The Heavenly Dragon's aura was released, and the Heavenly Dragon's true body gradually condensed behind Longchen. Bang! Suddenly, Wuquang's attack arrived and directly bombarded Longchen's defensive barrier. After a series of tremors, the attack was completely dissipated. Although his attack did not land, Wuquang did not panic. As a 9th-layer Hongmeng Tianjing expert, he naturally understood how difficult it was for a Hongmeng Tianjing cultivator to break through. Even if Longchen's strength was far superior to others of the same level, he still had time. Wuquang still had plenty of time. Wuquang let out a long roar towards the sky. Immediately, sound waves surged out in the air. As the sound waves fell, a huge light screen appeared in the sky, completely covering Wuquang and Longchen. Suddenly, a huge light screen appeared in the sky, completely covering Wuquang and Longchen. In that instant, although the terrifying aura did not fall, it still caused Longchen's Hongmeng barrier to tremble. Wuquang suddenly withdrew the grand mist aura that he had emitted as a monstrous sound wave reverberated. After which, an astonishing scene took place. The sound waves that had been emitted from his long roar were actually compatible with Wuquang's own grand mist power. After fusing together, Wuquang completely absorbed this power into his body. Immediately after, Wuquang's body began to expand at a speed visible to the naked eye. His entire body immediately emitted a dense and violent aura, directly sweeping across the sky. Not many people had seen such a powerful sound wave technique before. Even Longchen could not help but be amazed by this technique. Transforming one's Hongmeng into sound waves and releasing them, directly enveloping the Hongmeng in the air. Then, using the sound waves to absorb the Hongmeng into one's body to strengthen one's body. Needless to say, the person who could come up with this technique must be a heaven-defying genius. As Wuquang's strength burst forth, a vast amount of primordial energy gushed out, causing everyone in the sky to be unable to breathe. For a moment, the Lin-Meng Polar Region's Hongmeng Tianjing experts who were close to the battlefield could not help but retreat a little. On the other side, in the battle between Elder Fong and the Tao God Pagoda's Pagoda Master, Hua Shanyu had the upper hand and firmly suppressed Elder Fong. It would not be long before Elder Fong completely collapsed. On the other hand, Hua Lei and Hua Yan were firmly suppressing Old Mother of Heavenly Yin. It seemed that when Hua Lei and Hua Yan used the falling flower god Jade, Old Mother of Heavenly Yin felt an irreversible suppression that greatly limited Old Mother of Heavenly Yin's strength. At the same time, under the deliberate planning of Patriarch Zishu and Patriarch Luo Hua, the battle between the Tianfeng tribe's Hongmeng Tianjing puppets and the Hongmeng Polar Region's Hongmeng Tianjing was getting closer and closer to the Lin-Meng Polar Region's Hongmeng Tianjing. Gradually, Lin-Meng Tianjing's Hongmeng Tianjing experts were forced to join the battle. It was also because of this that the Hongmeng Polar Region's Hongmeng Polar Region learned of a shocking inside story. It turned out that the Hongmeng Tianjing puppets of the Tianfeng tribe did not have the slightest bit of memory. Whether it was the Hongmeng Polar Region's Hongmeng Tianjing experts or the Lin-Meng Tianjing's Hongmeng Tianjing experts, anyone who was close to the Tianfeng tribe's puppets would become a target. People who were close to the Tianfeng tribe would become the enemy of the Tianfeng tribe. In other words, in a certain sense, these people of the Tianfeng tribe had completely degenerated into walking corpses. Wuquang had been accumulating power for a long time. Looking at Longchen, who was in the process of advancing, the anger in his heart could no longer be suppressed. Then, he roared, "Wave slash!" In an instant, the aura emitted by Wuquang's entire chain reached an extreme point. A huge shadow rushed out from the Hongmeng aura that surged out from Wuquang. As the heavens and earth trembled, bursts of energy exploded. A storm rolled up and whistled like thunder. Break! Wuquang's entire body also rushed out at the most unexpected moment. The huge Hongmeng hammer condensed from the Hongmeng aura at the very beginning. It was covered in patterns and rich Hongmeng energy surged and flowed, as if it was going to smash the entire area. The heavenly curtain. On the other side, Longchen did not have the slightest intention of blocking. Just like before, he quietly floated in midair, surrounded by the aura of the heavenly dragon, and carried out the necessary meridian operation for advancing. No matter how strong the wind blows, I will remain unmoved. Then, the Hongmeng hammer directly crushed the entire space, and heavily bombarded the area. Wu Kuang's entire expression was solemn. The Hongmeng energy in his hand had risen to a peak. Just as the Hongmeng hammer was about to land on the Hongmeng barrier around Longchen, a sudden change occurred. An extremely inconspicuous bead slowly fell from Longchen's body. Then, with an extremely fast speed, it whistled and whizzed towards the intersection between the Hongmeng hammer and Longchen. Just like this, if the Hongmeng hammer wanted to hit Longchen, it first had to smash this pillar. At this moment, the bead was not even 1% the size of the Hongmeng hammer. In the surroundings, there was no rich Hongmeng energy, and it was even harder to detect what kind of extraordinary energy was contained within. Bang! The Hongmeng hammer heavily bombarded this extremely inconspicuous bead. Immediately, at the point of contact, a shocking wave was set off. It was as if the sky was collapsing, and the space above the sky was collapsing continuously. The violent aura of the Hongmeng hammer once again condensed into a strangling rope, and was torn apart. When the energy ripples from the hammer dissipated, the Hongmeng hammer, which had merged with Wu Kuang's extremely powerful energy, actually had several cracks. As for the inconspicuous bead, there was not the slightest change. It was still floating in midair, as if nothing had happened. This bead was a spiritual treasure known as the domain bead that Longchen had obtained in the Longmeng Dong heavenly abode. Chapter 21-26. In fact, Longchen did not expect the domain pearl to have such a strong defensive power. Throwing out the domain pearl at such a time was already Longchen's last resort. Currently, Longchen had to divert a large portion of his attention to operate his meridians so that he could maintain a delicate balance between his Hongmeng aura and the outside world during the process of his advancement. As a result, he had no choice but to neglect the external defense. The enemy was the Hall Master of the Martial Ancestor Temple, Wu Kuang. Wu Kuang's sharp and fierce Hongmeng aura had long indicated that if Longchen insisted on going his own way, he would not be able to obtain any benefits. It was very likely that under Wu Kuang's all-out attack, the defensive barrier created by Longchen would suddenly shatter. However, all of these worst-case scenarios had vanished the moment Longchen's domain pearl successfully blocked Wu Kuang outside. At this moment, Wu Kuang had clearly yet to recover from the shock caused by the little bead that he had once treated as nothing. Had the attack that he was so proud of been destroyed by such an unremarkable little bead? Therefore, how could Wu Kuang allow such a small bead to block his path? Without waiting for the violent collision from the previous attack to land, Wu Kuang gathered all the strength in Adu's body. His body suddenly moved, and his entire body moved. Then, he charged out again. Heavenly Dipper energy. In less than a breath's time, a powerful Heavenly Dipper pure yang aura condensed around Wu Kuang's body. Then, as Wu Kuang's figure flashed, the Heavenly Dipper baleful chi frantically condensed and immediately pierced through. Several fragments of space smashed towards the pillar in front of Longchen. In fact, the current Wu Kuang could completely ignore the pearl and attack Longchen from the other side. In that case, how could Longchen, who had focused all of his attention on his advancement, have the time to consider the overall situation? Naturally, Longchen was unable to move the bead. However, Wu Kuang seemed unwilling to admit defeat and continued to rush towards the bead. It seemed that if Wu Kuang did not remove the bead's obstruction, it would be detrimental to his future. His cultivation would be affected in some way. Monstrous waves instantly surged out. Wu Kuang wrapped the Heavenly Dipper energy around his body and heavily collided with the pearl. Clang! It was another unprecedented collision. This time, Wu Kuang was not pushed back by the backlash from the pearl. Instead, he used the heavenly dipper energy that shook the heavens and earth to form some kind of balance with the domain pearl. Although overall, Wuquang had made an absolute improvement, he had wasted too much time focusing on this battle. On the other side, Longchen was about to succeed in his advancement. On the other side of the battlefield, the Tao God Tower Master, Hua Shiyu, coldly shouted at Wuquang, "Finish off Longchen first. We'll deal with the rest later." Upon hearing this, Wuquang finally reacted. He hurriedly withdrew the energy from his body and ended the battle with the domain pearl. However, the current Wuquang had developed an uncontrollable curiosity towards the domain pearl. Wuquang was extremely clear about his own strength. He was well aware of the power of his all-out attack. Previously, the pearl had withstood such a powerful attack, yet it did not tremble in the slightest. No matter how you look at it, it doesn't make any sense. What puzzled Wuquang even more was that he did not feel a trace of Hongmeng's aura from the pillar. Instead, it was an even more powerful energy. As for what kind of energy it was, Wuquang could not explain it. At this time, almost all of the Hongmeng Tianjing experts from the Linmeng polar region had been pulled into the battle. The doubts of the Hongmeng polar region had been completely cleared. The Hongmeng Tianjing experts of the Tianfeng tribe had completely lost their consciousness. Whenever they saw an expert who was different from them, they would attack without reason. This was also the reason why the experts of the Linmeng polar region did not join forces with the Tianfeng tribe to attack the Hongmeng polar region. Fortunately, the people of the Hongmeng polar region had already exposed this conspiracy. Although there was no time to think about what these people of the Tianfeng tribe had experienced, it was already very impressive that the battle had progressed to this stage. The experts of the Hongmeng polar region, led by the patriarch, sighed with emotion. Wuquang observed the battle for a while and also understood some things. He immediately changed his direction and wanted to attack Longchen from the other side. However, it was already too late for Wuquang. At this moment, Longchen's body suddenly burst out with an incomparably brilliant aura. At the same time, the Hongmeng polar region trembled continuously, with Longchen as the center, spreading outwards. A huge explosion sounded in Hongmeng. Amidst the brilliant brilliance, the power of the spiritual energy suddenly spread throughout the sky. When the Hongmeng polar region's aura calmed down a little, a resolute figure could be seen slowly walking out from it. His body was surrounded by an incomparably violent aura of Hongmeng. Although this aura could not be compared to the heaven and earth vision caused by Wuquang's attack, for Longchen, it had already reached the peak of his life. At this moment, Longchen had advanced to the second stage of Hongmeng Tianjing. Waves of shocking aura were emitted from Longchen's every move. Then, without any hesitation, Longchen immediately condensed the true heavenly dragon body. Longchen's spiritual energy entered the true heavenly dragon body. The incomparably violent aura of Hongmeng polar region surged out as the true heavenly dragon body was displayed. Vaguely, Longchen's true heavenly dragon body was much stronger than before. When Longchen's true heavenly dragon body was fully displayed in front of Wuquang, Wuquang immediately realized that the Longchen in this true heavenly dragon body had undergone a transformation compared to the previous Longchen. Previously, Longchen had fought a few battles in succession, and the energy within his body had been greatly depleted. Now, after completing a promotion, Longchen could be said to have been reborn. His fatigue from before had been completely swept away. "Rise!" Longchen roared. Immediately, the pearl of domain in front of Longchen moved and flew to Longchen's side in the blink of an eye. In any case, although Longchen could not fully control the power of the pearl of domain, Longchen was already very satisfied that the pearl of domain could buy him so much time. Chapter 21-27. Hongmeng's aura whizzed past, and the sky became increasingly austere. The heavenly dragon true body hovered in mid-air, and its aura swept across Hongmeng. Longchen's eyes constantly emitted an extremely dense and majestic murderous aura. It surged unceasingly, as if it wanted to pierce through the entire sky. Wu Kuang's expression finally became serious, and he no longer had the arrogant aura that he had when he faced Long Chen. Wu Kuang was a Hongmeng Tianjing Stage 9 expert, so he naturally knew very well that after Long Chen's breakthrough, Long Chen's entire spirit, qi, and spirit had been greatly enhanced. "I didn't expect you to succeed," Wu Kuang said solemnly. Long Chen did not respond to Wu Kuang's words, and continued to condense Hongmeng's aura. Long Chen knew very well that even if he had successfully broken through and recovered most of his strength was still at the same level as Wu Kuang's. It was still as unbearable as before. Although he had the Pearl of Domain, which could block Wu Kuang's attack, he could not freely use the power of the Pearl of Domain. If Wu Kuang were to find out the secret behind it, he might be in an even more dangerous situation. Therefore, what Long Chen needed to do now was to do his best to stabilize his strength. He did not hope that he could defeat Wu Kuang, but he hoped that he could delay this battle long enough for the Hongmeng Polar region's main force to take over. After obtaining victory, the other experts would attack together. At that time, there would be no need for Long Chen to take action. The heavenly dragon true body roared, and Long Chen controlled it to release a surge of Hongmeng's power. Immediately after, a flame of Hongmeng condensed behind Long Chen and soared into the sky. Boom! Without waiting for the dragon's roar to fade, Long Chen's heavenly dragon true body roared out. Its huge body tore through space, and wrapped in a dense Hongmeng's aura, enveloped Wu Kuang. Among them, there was an incomparably violent pressure of the heavenly dragon's bloodline. Although Long Chen was not confident that this pressure would have any effect on Wu Kuang, Long Chen had no other choice but to rely on it. When Long Chen's aura was about to oppress Wu Kuang suddenly leapt high into the air, using his body as a medium, a barrier. What caught Long Chen off guard was that the barrier was not meant to block Long Chen's attack, but Wu Kuang's. Wu Kuang was actually using the barrier, and charged towards Long Chen. Dong! Just as the two were about to collide, Long Chen released the spirit power in his body to prevent any mishaps. When the barrier fell, a dense and vigorous aura rose from the ground and swept directly above the heavenly dragon true body. Then, the heavenly dragon true body's body suddenly expanded. The Hongmeng's aura that previously enveloped its body was now much more powerful than before. At this moment, it was dozens of times denser than before. Upon seeing this, a fierce glint flashed across Wu Kuang's eyes. Then, Wu Kuang once again threw out a punch. Bursts of fist wind completely wrapped up the heavenly star energy behind him, instantly condensing into an extremely sharp blade aura. It was an absolute force. An overwhelming aura enveloped the heavenly dragon true body. However, how could Long Chen be someone who would sit and wait for death? In the face of such an unpredictable attack, Long Chen abruptly circulated the power of the heavenly dragon bloodline to the extreme. Then, the heavenly dragon true body suddenly surged out a vast Hongmeng aura, and suddenly stepped into the surrounding space, tearing it apart. The heavenly dragon true body had completely wrapped up the Hongmeng's aura in this space. Then, using the Hongmeng's aura in this space as a foundation, it collided head-on with Wu Kuang's attack. Clang clang! De Zhuang's beautiful Hongmeng exploded. Who would have thought that the moment the heavenly star energy exploded, it would mobilize all the Hongmeng's aura in this space, and even strengthen the power of the Hongmeng's aura. Then, it crushed it with absolute force. This move caused the entire Hongmeng to explode. Bang! Heavenly star energy, rise! It was unknown when and where Wu Kuang had condensed his qi attack, but the moment the two collided, a dense killing force rippled out in the sky. Suddenly, the entire sky became bleak. The grand mist aura was extremely powerful. In an instant, the heavenly dragon true body was surrounded by a purgatory sea of flames. The sudden crisis forced Long Chen to stop attacking Wu Kuang for the time being. He had to choose to protect himself. The heavenly dragon true body emitted a burst of Hongmeng aura, enveloping its huge body and isolating it from the purgatory sea of flames. The heavenly star energy released by Wu Kuang was not only very rich, but also possessed an extremely violent explosive aura. This was the reason why the heavenly star energy was ignited in such a short time. However, the current Longchen no longer had the mental strength to ponder over the essence of this heavenly dipper aura. What Longchen cared about was how to break through this purgatory sea of flames. Go to hell. At this time, Wuquang saw that Longchen was temporarily surrounded by the purgatory sea of flames and was immediately overjoyed. He hurriedly circulated the chi around his body and released the last strand of heavenly star energy around him to the other side. Clang clang. In this way, the purgatory sea of flames around Longchen became even more vigorous. For a while, Longchen could not break through the siege of the purgatory sea of flames. No matter which direction he went, he would be heavily injured by the heavenly star energy in the purgatory sea of flames. His own meridians. However, Longchen understood that no matter what, he could not sit still and wait for this purgatory sea of flames to erode his chi bit by bit. In desperation, Longchen retracted the Hongmeng aura condensed by the thunder of the nine heavens technique. This was a vast and rich Hongmeng aura. If it was under normal circumstances, Longchen would not be able to control it. But now, Longchen had to force himself to control it. He had to control this aura. Longchen controlled the heavenly dragon true body and fiercely swung his body. The dragon halberd appeared where the Hongmeng aura dissipated. Although Longchen could not hold the dragon halberd, Longchen's goal was to let Longchen absorb the chi from the Hongmeng aura. It was time. At this time, he had to catch Longchen off guard. Since he was already trapped in the same place and could not move, Longchen could only break the heavenly star energy in the purgatory sea of flames in one blow to have a chance to escape. The dragon halberd in Longchen's hand made a faint sound. The lightning power in the Hongmeng aura continuously poured into it. The brilliance behind Longchen dissipated little by little. You're tuning into the Mythic Realms YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.